Toronto was already roaring before BTS even stepped fully into the spotlight on the second night of the ARIRANG World Tour. But what happened on August 23 turned the atmosphere into something even more intense. Jimin and Jungkook came to the stage with maximum energy, delivering powerful performances that sent ARMY into a frenzy. And just when fans thought the night could not get any more emotional, unforgettable interactions involving BTS and their clothing-created moments that fans will be talking about for a long time. This was not just another concert night. This was BTS Day 2 in Toronto. From the very beginning, the atmosphere inside the stadium was electric. Thousands of ARMY filled the venue, light sticks glowing across the crowd as fans waited for BTS to appear. The anticipation was enormous, but the moment the members finally took the stage, that anticipation exploded into an overwhelming wave of screams. And Jimin immediately became one of the biggest reasons why. His stage presence was impossible to ignore. Every movement looked precise, every expression felt intentional, and every step seemed to draw even more attention from the audience. Jimin has always had a special ability to turn choreography into something emotional and expressive, and Toronto once again witnessed that quality at full strength. He was not simply dancing. He was performing every movement with purpose. The sharp details in his choreography, the fluid transitions, the confidence in his expressions, and the way he connected with the audience made it feel as though every section of the stadium was within his reach. The reaction was instant. ARMY screamed louder every time Jimin moved toward the front of the stage. Cameras went up. Light sticks waved through the air. Fans shouted his name as though the entire stadium wanted to make sure he could hear them. Then Jungkook took over the stage, and the energy reached another level. Jungkook brought a completely different kind of intensity. His movements were powerful, his presence was confident, and his performance carried the kind of raw energy that can fill even a massive stadium. There was never a moment when he looked disconnected from the audience. He looked completely in his element. Every performance section became bigger when Jungkook stepped into the spotlight. He moved with confidence, delivered his parts with strength, and gave the audience exactly the kind of explosive energy they had been waiting for. And when Jimin and Jungkook shared the same stage, Toronto became almost impossible to contain. Fans were already screaming for both of them individually, but seeing them perform in the same space created an entirely different reaction. Their performance styles complemented each other perfectly. Jimin brought precision, elegance, and emotional detail, while Jungkook added power, intensity, and physical energy. Together, they created a combination that left the audience completely captivated. But the night was not only about music and choreography. One of the biggest reasons BTS concerts feel so special is the connection between the members and ARMY. Toronto Day 2 once again showed just how strong that connection can be. Fans were not simply sitting and watching. They were singing along. They were shouting. They were waving banners. They were dancing. They were reacting to every expression, every gesture, and every interaction. The stadium became a shared experience between the artists and the audience. That emotional connection became even more intense when moments involving clothing and gifts to ARMY began to capture attention. For a BTS fan, receiving something directly connected to a member can be an unforgettable experience. A piece of clothing may seem ordinary to someone outside the fandom, but to an ARMY member standing in front of BTS, that item can become a priceless memory. Imagine waiting for the concert for months, traveling to Toronto, standing among thousands of other fans, and then suddenly having a moment where one of the members gives something directly to the audience. That is the kind of moment fans remember forever. And those moments can happen in just a few seconds. A gesture, a smile, a wave, A piece of clothing. A direct interaction. Suddenly, the entire concert becomes personal. That is why the clothing moments became such an emotional part of the Toronto conversation. Fans immediately began sharing their reactions online, posting photos, clips, and stories from the concert. Every detail was analyzed. Every expression was replayed. Every memorable interaction became another piece of the night that fans wanted to preserve. Jimin remained one of the biggest centers of attention throughout the evening. His performances showed once again why he has such a powerful reputation as a stage performer. He does not rely only on choreography. He uses his eyes, facial expressions, body language, and timing to create a complete performance. There were moments when his movements were incredibly sharp. Then, just seconds later, he could switch into something softer and more emotional. That contrast is one of the qualities that makes his performances so captivating. Toronto ARMY noticed everything. They noticed the details. They noticed the expressions. They noticed every move. And they responded with deafening enthusiasm. Jungkook delivered the same level of commitment. His stage presence was powerful from beginning to end. His confidence was obvious, and his ability to move around the enormous stage made the performance feel even bigger. There was an unstoppable energy around him. Whenever Jungkook entered the spotlight, the crowd reacted immediately. And when he interacted with Jimin, the reaction became even louder. Fans have long appreciated the dynamic between the two members, and Toronto Day 2 gave them another night full of moments to celebrate. Their chemistry on stage helped make the performances even more entertaining. Jimin and Jungkook did not look like performers simply completing a schedule. They looked completely immersed in the experience. They were enjoying the stage. They were feeding off the energy of the crowd. And most importantly, they were giving ARMY exactly what they had been waiting for. The entire stadium seemed to move with them. Every beat brought another scream. Every dance break created another wave of excitement. Every interaction became another memory. That is the magic of a BTS concert. The production may be massive. The venue may be enormous. The audience may number in the thousands. But the most memorable moments are often the smallest ones. A glance toward the audience. A smile. A wave. A laugh. A spontaneous interaction. A piece of clothing handed to a fan. Those moments make the concert feel intimate, even when thousands of people are standing around you. For the ARMY who experienced Toronto Day 2, those memories will likely remain some of the most meaningful parts of the night. The emotional atmosphere was impossible to ignore. Fans had waited for this. They had traveled. They had planned outfits. They had prepared banners. They had spent hours waiting outside. And now BTS was standing directly in front of them. Jimin was delivering breathtaking performances. Jungkook was bringing explosive energy. And the rest of BTS was helping create a night that felt bigger with every passing moment. The audience gave everything they had. And BTS gave everything back. That mutual energy is what makes a stadium show feel alive. It is also what makes these moments spread so quickly online. One fan records a few seconds of a performance. Another captures a reaction from the audience. Someone else shares a photo. Another fan posts a detailed account of what happened. Within minutes, a moment experienced by one person can become a global conversation. That is exactly what happened with Toronto Day 2. Fans were eager to share Jimin's performances. They wanted everyone to see Jungkook's stage presence. They wanted to talk about the interactions. And of course, they wanted to celebrate the unforgettable moments involving clothing and gifts. The internet transformed the concert into a second event. The stadium was one experience. Social media became another. Fans who were not physically in Toronto could still experience the excitement through clips, photographs, reactions, and fan reports. That is the power of BTS's global fandom. One stadium may host the concert, but the entire world can become part of the conversation. For Jimin, Toronto Day 2 was another opportunity to show why he remains one of the most captivating performers in the group. He has a unique ability to balance technical skill with emotion. His dancing looks controlled without losing its natural flow. His expressions add meaning to the choreography, and his connection with the audience makes every performance feel personal. For Jungkook, the night was another showcase of his versatility and confidence. He can deliver an intense performance with explosive movement, then switch to a more emotional moment without losing the audience's attention. His voice, stage presence, and physical energy combine to make him one of the most powerful performers on the stage. Put Jimin and Jungkook together, and Toronto gets a performance that is almost impossible to ignore. The screams say everything. The cameras say everything. The reactions online say everything. Fans were not simply impressed. They were overwhelmed. And then there were the clothing moments. These interactions added another layer of emotion to an already unforgettable night. For an ARMY member, receiving clothing from BTS is more than just receiving an item. It becomes a story about where they were, what song was playing, who was standing nearby, what Jimin or Jungkook looked like in that moment, how the crowd reacted, how they felt. Those details become connected to that item forever. Years later, the memory could still be attached to that single piece of clothing. That is why fans reacted so strongly, because they understood how rare those moments are. The night continued to build until fans reached the point where they realized something very simple. They were experiencing something special. The performance, the energy, the interactions, the unexpected moments, everything combined into one unforgettable concert experience. Toronto Day 2 was filled with emotion from beginning to end. There were moments when fans were screaming, moments when fans were laughing, moments when fans were crying, and moments when the entire stadium seemed to sing as one. That is what happens when BTS and ARMY share the same space. The boundary between performer and audience becomes much smaller. Everyone becomes part of the same atmosphere. Everyone contributes to the energy. And everyone leaves with their own version of the memory. For some fans, their favorite memory will be Jimin's dancing. For others, it will be Jungkook's explosive performance. For others, it will be seeing the two members together. And for the lucky fans involved in clothing interactions, those moments may become the most unforgettable memories of all. When the concert eventually moved toward its conclusion, the atmosphere changed. There was still excitement, still screaming, still singing, but there was also the realization that the night was coming to an end. Fans who had spent months waiting were suddenly watching the final moments disappear. That is one of the strangest parts of a concert like this. You spend so long waiting. Then the night arrives. And somehow it passes incredibly quickly. Before you know it, the stage lights begin to change. The final performances are approaching. The crowd knows what is coming. And nobody wants it to end. Toronto Day 2 left fans with exactly that feeling. Exhausted, emotional, excited, and completely satisfied. Jimin had given them an unforgettable performance. Jungkook had delivered explosive energy. BTS had once again proven why their concerts create such powerful reactions around the world. and ARMY had responded with all the passion they had. The clothing moments added even more emotion to the story. They became reminders that, despite the massive scale of the production and the enormous popularity of the group, BTS continues to value direct and meaningful connections with their fans. That is perhaps the biggest reason nights like this remain so important. It is not only about the songs. It is not only about the choreography. It is not only about the stage. It is about the connection, about the memories, about sharing a moment that cannot be repeated in exactly the same way. Toronto Day 2 will be remembered for Jimin's incredible stage presence. It will be remembered for Jungkook's explosive performances. It will be remembered for the deafening screams of ARMY. And it will be remembered for those emotional moments when the distance between BTS and their fans suddenly felt much smaller. The lights may have gone down. The music may have stopped. The stadium may have slowly emptied. But the memories did not disappear. They went home with the fans. They appeared on social media. They became stories shared between friends. They became clips replayed over and over. They became screenshots saved forever. And for the lucky ARMY who received special clothing or gifts during the night, they became physical reminders of one extraordinary evening. That is why BTS Day 2 in Toronto felt so special. It was not simply a concert. It was an emotional celebration. Jimin delivered. Jungkook delivered. BTS delivered. And ARMY responded with everything they had. Toronto was loud. Toronto was emotional. Toronto was unforgettable. And when Jimin and Jungkook stood on that stage, giving their maximum energy, thousands of fans knew they were witnessing something that they would remember for years. This was BTS in Toronto. This was Day 2. And this was another night that proved why the connection between BTS and ARMY remained stronger than ever. The night in Toronto continued to unfold with one unforgettable moment after another. And the longer the concert went on, the more difficult it became for ARMY to keep their emotions under control. Jimin remained completely immersed in the performance. His confidence was visible in every movement, while his expressions constantly changed with the mood of each song. One moment he could look powerful and commanding, and the next he could create a softer, more emotional atmosphere simply by looking toward the audience. That ability to change the mood so naturally is one of Jimin's greatest strengths as a performer. He knows how to make a stadium feel smaller. Even with thousands of people watching, there were moments when it seemed as though Jimin was performing directly for the fans in front of him. ARMY noticed every detail. They screamed when he moved closer to the edge of the stage. They screamed when he turned toward a particular section. They screamed when he smiled. And whenever his choreography became more intense, the reaction became even louder. Jimin looked completely comfortable under the massive lights. There was no hesitation, no sign of slowing down. He continued giving everything he had. Then Jungkook appeared with a kind of energy that immediately changed the atmosphere. His presence felt powerful and direct. The crowd responded instantly. Jungkook moved across the stage with confidence, delivering his performance with the intensity fans have come to expect from him. But what made the night particularly exciting was the contrast between his style and Jimin's. Jimin's movements often contain a certain elegance and fluidity. Jungkook's performances frequently carry a stronger sense of force and athletic energy. When the two styles came together, the effect was explosive. Toronto ARMY could feel it. Every shared performance moment created another wave of screaming. It was the kind of energy that spread through the entire venue. And while the performances were already enough to make the night unforgettable, the interactions with ARMY made the concert feel even more personal. BTS has built an extraordinary relationship with their fans over the years, and moments like these are reminders that the bond exists beyond music. A concert can have thousands of people in attendance, but one small interaction can become the memory that a fan treasures most. That is exactly why the moments involving clothing created so much excitement. For fans, something worn or handled by a BTS member can carry enormous sentimental value. It becomes connected to that specific night, that specific city, that specific performance. The memories become attached to the item itself. And when the item is received directly from a member, the emotional impact can be overwhelming. You can imagine what it must feel like to stand inside a giant stadium, surrounded by thousands of ARMY, and suddenly realize that a member is interacting directly with you. For one fan, a concert may begin as a dream. Then, within a few seconds, that dream becomes a memory that can last a lifetime. Toronto Day 2 created several moments with that kind of emotional weight. Fans were already prepared to scream. But nobody can fully prepare for an unexpected personal interaction. That is what makes live concerts so special. No matter how many videos someone watches before the show, no matter how many fan reports they read, there is nothing quite like being there in person. The atmosphere cannot be duplicated. The sound of thousands of people screaming at exactly the same moment cannot be recreated. The feeling of seeing the members appear on the stage cannot be replaced by a screen. And that is why Toronto Day 2 mattered so much to the fans who were there. They experienced it firsthand. They were part of the sound, part of the energy, part of the memory. Meanwhile, fans around the world were watching from a distance. Social media quickly became filled with reactions. Short clips of Jimin's dancing began appearing. Jungkook's performance moments were shared. Fans discussed their favorite expressions and interactions.